I never imagined my life could change overnight. One moment, I was an 18-year-old girl with dreams, laughter, and a heart full of hope. The next, I was standing in a cold, silent room, staring at a man twice my age, forced into a marriage I didn't choose. My hands trembled. My heart pounded like it wanted to escape my chest. Every smile felt hollow. Every whisper of congratulations felt like a knife cutting through my innocence. He was 45, tall, confident, with eyes that seemed to see everything and nothing at once. I couldn't understand him, and I didn't want to. How could I possibly love someone whose life had already been lived twice over? Yet, beneath the stern gaze, there was something unexpected. A softness. A pause in his voice that made me question everything I thought I knew about fear, control, and maybe even love. I didn't know it then, but the man I was meant to despise, the man I thought I would always resist, would be the one to show me love I had never dreamed existed. Before we dive deeper into this story, I want to ask you something. Have you ever faced a moment in life that terrified you, a moment that felt bigger than you could handle? A moment when your whole world seemed to shift in an instant? If you've ever wondered whether love could appear in the most unexpected place, or if you've ever felt fear turn into something beautiful, then this story is for you. It's raw, it's emotional, and it's a journey that challenges everything we think we know about age, trust, and the power of the human heart. I want you to be part of this journey. As you watch, imagine yourself in her shoes 18, scared, unsure, standing on the edge of the unknown. And imagine him, the man society tells you shouldn't love, but who might just teach you what love really means. If stories like this move you, if you love suspenseful, emotional tales of unexpected love, then don't just watch, engage. Like, comment, and subscribe. Share your thoughts, your fears, your own experiences of love that came when you least expected it. Because sometimes, the most unforgettable stories are the ones that make your heart race before you even know the ending. My name is Emily, and I was just 18, full of dreams, laughter, and the naive certainty that life would unfold on my own terms. I had plans, college, friends, late-night walks in the city, endless possibilities. But all of that came crashing down the moment my family told me I was to marry a man I barely knew, a man who was 45. His name was Richard. He was tall, impeccably dressed, with silver at his temples that made him look older than his age, though his sharp eyes still held a strange vitality. Everyone whispered about him, successful, wealthy, intelligent, but also cold, unfeeling, untouchable. To me, he was terrifying. Every word he spoke seemed calculated, every gesture measured. We were in a modern US city, one full of life, yet our world felt trapped in a quiet, sterile mansion where my fears echoed off marble floors. Outside, life bustled, cars honked, streetlights flickered, children laughed, but inside, I felt a different world entirely, a world where I had no control. Before love, I felt like a prisoner in my own life. Each day was filled with anxiety and silent rebellion. I tiptoed around Richard, unsure whether he noticed my resistance or even cared. My family watched me like a caged bird, expecting obedience. And Richard, he observed me quietly, almost like a shadow, never intrusive but never absent. I thought I knew fear. I thought I knew loneliness. I thought I knew what it meant to be trapped. But in the silence of that house, I didn't yet know that the man I feared could become the one who would change everything I believed about love. The day we officially met felt like stepping into a storm I couldn't control. The wedding hall was grand, cold, and silent except for the muffled whispers of relatives and the soft hum of classical music playing in the background. My heart pounded like a drum in my chest, and my hands shook so violently that I almost dropped the delicate bouquet I held. Then, he appeared. Richard. Taller than I remembered, every movement deliberate, every glance sharp. My first impression? Intimidation wrapped in calm. He approached with slow, measured steps, his dark eyes locking on mine with a weight I couldn't bear. I wanted to look away, to run, but my feet felt glued to the floor. Emily, he said, his voice deep but surprisingly soft. It wasn't harsh or commanding, it was measured, steady, almost gentle. My stomach knotted. I nodded, unable to speak, my voice swallowed by nerves and disbelief. He extended his hand, not in the rigid formality of a ceremony, but as if testing my reaction, offering a choice. A part of me wanted to reject it, to turn and run from this arrangement entirely. But another part, a tiny, stubborn spark of curiosity, made me hesitate. That brief pause seemed to hang in the air, heavier than any word could. The room felt suffocating. My family's eyes were on me, expecting gratitude or obedience. The whispers grew louder, but Richard ignored them. He offered a faint smile, almost imperceptible, but it sent a shiver down my spine. In that moment, I realized he was nothing like the rumors suggested. Beneath the stern exterior, there was a hint of something unexpected, something that didn't demand fear but hinted at understanding. That single, tension-filled interaction set the tone for the days that followed. I still feared him, yes, but curiosity began to bloom alongside it. I didn't know it then, but this was the first crack in the walls I had built around my heart. And in that fleeting, charged moment, I felt the faintest pull toward a life I hadn't imagined, a life where fear and fascination could coexist in the same glance. At first, I kept my distance. I told myself that love was impossible, that a gap of decades, a lifetime of experience, would always keep us apart. But slowly, in small moments, Richard began to break through the walls I had built around my heart. It started with quiet conversations in the early mornings, before the house was awake. I would find him sitting by the large bay window, sipping coffee, staring at the city below. Sometimes, he would glance at me and nod in greeting. Those simple nods, so subtle, made my heart flutter in ways I couldn't explain. Then came the little gestures I never expected. A jacket draped over my shoulders when the evening air was cold. A cup of tea placed silently on my bedside table when I had stayed up crying. He never forced me to speak, never demanded attention, he simply showed care in ways that were quiet, yet impossible to ignore. One rainy afternoon, we were caught outside during a sudden storm. I was drenched, shivering, and embarrassed. Without a word, he removed his coat and wrapped it around me, his hands brushing mine as he helped me inside. I wanted to pull away, but instead, I froze, feeling warmth not just from the coat, but from him. My heart pounded as I realized, for the first time, that I felt safe with him. Nights became different. Conversations stretched longer, filled with laughter, teasing, and shared stories from his past. Stories I would have never imagined hearing from a man so composed, so distant at first. I discovered a vulnerability in him, moments of honesty and softness that no one else had ever witnessed. And slowly, my fear began to shift into something new: curiosity, admiration, and a strange, unbidden affection. I caught myself watching him when he wasn't looking, noticing the gentleness in his hands, the subtle kindness in his eyes, the way he treated everyone around him with quiet respect. I was falling in love, not in the dramatic, fiery way I had read about in novels, but in the real, slow, almost imperceptible way that makes your heart ache and swell at the same time. And in those moments, I realized that love could arrive quietly, unexpectedly, even in a life I thought had been decided for me. Just as I began to feel a fragile sense of safety with Richard, the world outside our walls reminded me that life wasn't a fairy tale. Society had its whispers, and my family had their expectations. The moment anyone noticed the unusual gap between us, my 18 years, his 45, they looked at us with judgment. Some pitied me, some criticized him, some assumed our marriage was nothing more than a transaction. And somewhere, deep in me, the fear began to creep back. Then there was his past. A shadow I hadn't seen coming. One evening, I discovered an envelope hidden in the study, addressed to someone named Elena. Curiosity burned through me, but so did fear. My hands shook as I opened it. Letters, photographs, memories from a life he had lived long before I had existed. My heart sank. I felt like a fool, a naive girl who had allowed herself to trust a man she barely knew. I thought, maybe he was still holding on to someone else, maybe all the tenderness I felt was an illusion. I confronted him, voice trembling, tears streaming down my cheeks. "Who is she?" I demanded. His face paled, but he didn't look guilty, he looked pained. He explained that Elena had been part of his past, someone he had loved and lost tragically. That loss had shaped him, forced him to guard his heart, and yes, it had made him wary of letting anyone close again. Every word he spoke was measured, yet full of honesty. Even with his truth, I didn't know if I could believe him. The fear, the whispers, the doubts, they pressed against me from all sides. And yet, there were moments when he would silently show care, a hand on my shoulder when I cried, a quiet note left on my bed, a small smile when I returned from a difficult day. Those gestures reminded me of why my heart had begun to trust him in the first place. Then, just when I thought the storm was fading, the world threw another challenge. My college acceptance letter arrived. A chance to escape, to breathe, to live my own life. But leaving would mean abandoning Richard, the man I had started to love, the man who had quietly become my anchor. My heart split in two. I wanted freedom, yet I wanted him. And he, aware of my dilemma, never pressured me. Instead, he whispered, "Do what makes you happy, Emily. I'll wait." Every day became a battle between fear and affection, doubt and trust, obligation and desire. Our love was growing, yes, but so were the obstacles. And I realized that the journey ahead would test more than my heart, it would test our very souls. It all came crashing down one rainy night. The storm outside mirrored the turmoil in my heart. I had finally decided to trust Richard fully, to embrace the strange, quiet love that had grown between us. But fate had other plans. That evening, a stranger arrived at the mansion, a woman with sharp eyes and a cold, calculating smile. She introduced herself as Elena. My heart froze. The very name I had feared seeing in letters, the shadow of his past I had struggled to understand, now stood before me in flesh and blood. She claimed to have unresolved matters, whispered threats, and insinuations that shattered the fragile trust one had built. "You're just a child," she said to me, eyes flicking to Richard. "You don't know him. You don't know what he's capable of." Richard stepped forward, protective, his face pale but his voice steady. "Emily, listen to me. She is from my past. Nothing here changes what I feel for you." But Elena's presence was like a storm within a storm, a whirlwind of fear, doubt, and betrayal. Every instinct in me screamed to flee, to protect my heart from another heartbreak. In that moment, emotions collided. My hands trembled. Tears streamed down my cheeks as I confronted him. "How can I trust you when she is here? How do I know this love is real?" His voice broke, just slightly, as he whispered, "Because I've chosen you. Every day, I choose you." Then came the final blow. Elena revealed a secret I hadn't anticipated. Richard had been legally bound to resolve a business issue that could destroy the very home I had grown to call ours. I felt like the world had shifted beneath me, and I could barely stand. Every moment of tenderness we shared flashed in my mind, now threatened by forces beyond our control. I ran from the room, rain pelting my face as I stormed out into the night. Richard followed, shouting my name, pleading, but I couldn't hear him over the storm inside me. My heart felt torn in two, love and fear warring within me. I wanted to trust him, to embrace the man who had shown me unexpected love, yet everything screamed that I could lose it all in an instant. And then, in a moment of quiet amidst the chaos, I realized the choice was mine. I could surrender to fear or I could take the leap of trust, embracing love despite the storm. The decision would define everything. The rain finally slowed, leaving the world glistening in a quiet, reflective haze. I stood on the mansion steps, shivering, my heart still racing from the chaos of the night. Richard approached slowly, his coat clutched in his hands, eyes full of worry and something deeper, hope. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The storm had passed outside, but inside me, emotions still raged, fear, anger, love, and confusion tangled together in a way I didn't know how to untangle. "Elena is gone," Richard said softly, his voice almost breaking. "She can no longer interfere with us. Everything she threatened is resolved." I looked up at him, searching for the truth in his eyes. The vulnerability I had seen in glimpses before was now undeniable. He wasn't just powerful, commanding, or distant. He was human, flawed, emotional, capable of love in ways I had never imagined. I swallowed my fear and spoke, voice shaking, I don't know if I can forgive myself for doubting you. He shook his head gently, taking my hands in his. Don't. You never did anything wrong. You only followed your heart. His touch was steady, reassuring, grounding me after the storm had nearly swept me away. In the days that followed, our relationship shifted in ways I hadn't thought possible. The walls between us fell. I learned to trust him fully, and he learned to let me into his world without fear. Our bond deepened not because everything was perfect, but because we faced the storm together. Each act of kindness, each quiet gesture, each shared laugh became a brick in the foundation of something real, something neither age nor circumstance could destroy. Even the mansion, once cold and intimidating, now felt like home. Every room held memories, the first conversation, the rain-soaked coat, the quiet mornings filled with coffee and laughter. And in those moments, I realized that love doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it comes quietly, subtly, in ways that catch you by surprise but leave you forever changed. I no longer saw Richard as a man I had been forced to marry. I saw him as my partner, my protector, my unexpected love, the person who had taught me that the heart can adapt, forgive, and choose happiness even against all odds. And in the end, it wasn't about age, society, or fear. It was about trust, patience, and the courage to embrace the unexpected. Looking back, I realize that life doesn't always give us the love we expect. Sometimes, it places fear, uncertainty, and impossible odds in front of us, testing our courage and our hearts. I was forced into a marriage I didn't want, with a man decades older than me, and yet, in that unexpected union, I found a love deeper and more patient than I had ever imagined. Love, I learned, isn't always about passion at first sight. It's about trust, understanding, and the willingness to see beyond appearances and past mistakes. It's about patience, both for yourself and for the person who may surprise you the most. Richard showed me that age, rumors, and societal judgment are small when compared to the quiet power of compassion and steadfast devotion. The greatest lesson I carry is this. Love often arrives in ways we can't predict, in forms we might fear at first, but if we are brave enough to embrace it, it can transform our lives entirely. Sometimes, the heart must take a leap of faith, even into the unknown, to discover a happiness it never imagined possible. Thank you for following this story of unexpected love and courage. Emily's journey reminds us that life doesn't always unfold the way we imagine, and love doesn't always arrive when or how we expect it. Sometimes, the people we fear, the situations we resist, or the paths we never wanted to take can lead us to the most profound happiness. Now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a moment that terrified you but ended up changing your life in ways you never expected? Have you ever discovered love in an unlikely place, or trust in someone you never thought you could? Share your experiences in the comments below. We all have stories worth telling. If this story moved you, inspired you, or kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who loves real, emotional stories, and subscribe to the channel for more tales of love, suspense, and unexpected twists. Remember, love isn't always obvious, and life isn't always easy. But sometimes, the most surprising journeys lead to the most beautiful destinations. Reflect, embrace, and never be afraid to let your heart choose the unexpected.